Before we start today's podcast, I would like to invite you to a free summit that I have been a part of. It is called A Journey Through Grief with Grace. The host is Diana Previs and I am one of the expert speakers. I talk all things mediumship, I talk about suicide, I talk about how to talk to your loved ones once they have passed, and what else is possible with being a medium. There is a lineup of amazing expert speakers from all around the world. And I just know there are so many benefits of being a part of the summit. This is a passion project for so many. And if we can help ease the grief and help people work through it with understanding, I just know that we can help so many people at this time, especially with what is going on in the world. So check out the show notes down below for the link, click on it. Please feel free to send this link to other people, to share this podcast with other people, so then we can help make a difference in this time. Together we are stronger, and understanding is knowledge. Sending you so much love, enjoy the podcast, and I'll talk to you soon. Welcome to the Release Your Blocks podcast. I am your host, Victoria Bond. I am a spiritual empowerment coach. I help teach others to show up to their potency so they can fulfill their mission here on earth. I'm so glad you are here. And if you are interested in becoming a medium, if you're interested in becoming a life coach, or if you're interested in shifting your life from the 3D to live more in the 5D reality, then check me out, book a clarity call, and let's get chatting. Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Release Your Blocks with Victoria Bond. We have got Angharad Sage here with us. How are you, Angharad?
I'm amazing, thank you.
I am so happy that you are here. We've actually been talking about you being on my podcast for, I think, a year. I think you were one of the first people like, we've got to make this happen. And it's been about a year, and finally we've made it. And we have basically both completely transformed our whole entire lives. But before we go into that, because you are a very extraordinary, interesting person, I want to let our audience know who you are. So I'm going to read your incredible bio here. So basically, Angharad Sage is a monthly 6-figure built upon freedom and wealth, a brand. Here's my dyslexia for you. So I'm just going to convert that a little bit and say, okay, so you are actually making like 6 figures. You're a 6-figure brand. So basically you help other people get to this, which is incredible because you've done it. So Angharad is a splenic manifestor, starseed, luxury brand mentor, and human design guide. She works with a heart and impact-driven leaders and offers live group coaching courses, self-paced programs, masterminds, and as well as semi-private and private mentoring. Okay, so you will actually be able to find her bio when you follow her at Angharad Sage across all of her socials. So I'm so excited, as you can tell, because you went from like 5-figure months to 6-figure months, and you also help other people do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes, I do.
And what's really extraordinary about you is you have done this really, really fucking fast. And that is why I find you extremely intriguing, because the quantum leaps, the collapsing timelines, you've done it faster than anyone else I've ever seen.
Yes, queen. No, I love quantum leaping, and it definitely put it down to, determination, absolutely, and the vision that I, held for myself and my business. But it's doing the inner work, right? And human design has been a huge impact, made a huge impact on my own alignment and my client's alignment as well. And so there's always like a whole lot of things meshed into our growth. But definitely when I set out, I set the intention with both myself and the universe by me investing, hundreds of thousands of dollars into myself before I even, made a dollar back. So I set the intention that I was like, I'm not here for logical results, because I'm making illogical investments in time, money, and energy into myself. And it's definitely, I can say in hindsight now, I'm pretty sure it's paid off.
You can say that because the evidence is there, basically. The evidence you have in the last year just by knowing you. And for those of you who probably don't know this, but I have actually worked with Angharad. So I did one of her week programs, And this is where this is about a year ago, I really had that identification, that evidence that it wasn't what she was telling me as much. It was what she was telling me, but it wasn't as much as what she was telling me as the energy of being in that container where I was being activated. Like, this is when I first started going, oh my God, Angharad, like, what are you doing to me? And you were like, wow. And I was like, holy shit, my world is changing. You actually introduced me to human design. Like, I'd heard about it, but it wasn't until I did your program where I was like, oh my God, that's what it means. This is what it means to me. And also the possibilities of zero evidence goals of actually quantum leaping faster than the human mind can kind of tell us. So the evidence is, you have actually bought a beautiful home across the country. You're homeschooling your children. You've just traveled New Zealand, and you create the lifestyle that you want to create in the way you want to create it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was, for those of you who don't really know what human design is, but as a manifestor, so both Victoria and I are like a small percentage of the population. So, the way we want to do things is going to be different than most. And the way we're going to do it is going to be different as well, right? And the living experience and the decisions we're going to make and how we're going to make those are different. But me being a manifestor, like, my biggest value is always freedom. So for manifestors, and even many gens are going to feel this as well. So freedom, so like wealth to me actually means freedom. So it was, I decided a long time ago that I wouldn't build this business based on hustling and grinding and, working like I used to. So we used to be, for those of you who don't actually know, I actually born and raised in Taranaki. We lived in Taranaki like most of our lives. Both my husband and I, and we used to be dairy farmers out in Toko, for those of you who are in Taranaki. But, and we worked crazy hours. My husband was working like 100-hour weeks. I was like 50 to 70 hours a week with newborn kids and, self-employed and losing all this money. And so we did the, you work hard for your money, and like it never worked for us and literally killed ourselves. So, when I was starting this business, I was like, I never want it to be based upon me working my ass off and not having time to enjoy it or not being able to utilize my feminine energy. And, so at the very beginning, it was something I declared was that this is going to be done my way, although there's no one else who's done it, especially not in New Zealand. One of the reasons why, at the time I worked with mentors overseas. Now there's incredible women in New Zealand as well. But, was me working with the mentors who did do it in a way that create a lot more freedom. But even for me, I desired even more freedom than that. So yeah, it was always around, the lifestyle first and the income second, I guess, or the profit second.
Which is completely the opposite on what we're taught. Which is kind of interesting, because being a farmer and, your husband and yourself working very hard with little children and stuff, I'm guessing, I'm just taking a kind of a bit of a gamble here, that when that farming position was offered to you or whatever it is, you guys would have thought you were very lucky and you had landed, a really great job, because that was the conditioned aspect of it. And then it's not until you start actually asking questions and going, what else is possible? Because I've got this burning, especially you being a manifestor, like, got this desire for freedom, but also this desire for impact in a way you want to do it. So I think for our audience, it's really interesting, because whenever people think, oh, yeah, cool as, like, I'm lucky I got the job, without actually thinking about other possibilities as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When we were presented the opportunity to Shimok it, I think we were 23, 23. We were offered an opportunity to go to Shimok, and we were like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, why wouldn't we do that? And so, and we started our first business at 21, actually. So we bought a tractor and doing agricultural contracting and had employees and stuff, and then went into farming as well. So we went up it was like 18 months. We started working on a dairy farm. My husband's like, we both grew up on farms and stuff though. So we like knew our shit, but, yeah, we, so that went up the ranks relatively quickly and stuff. But yeah, so there's a difference. Like, okay, so of course we dream of things, but sometimes then we're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then we get there, we're like, oh, this isn't aligned for me. This doesn't feel great anymore. Or I thought this was going to be great and it actually wasn't. And so, it's our responsibility, being the leaders of our own lives, right? The captain of our own ship, to be like, oh, that doesn't feel great. So I get to re-navigate, right? And this human life is through learning, through testing and seeing, right? It's through tasting the thing and being like, oh, I don't like that. And then we get to readjust. The problem that we very often have, if based on our conditioning, is that you just need to be thankful for your lot, or you need to be very stable and predictable, or, why would you reach for more when your life is already amazing in comparison to other people? Do you know what I mean? Or comparison to what it used to be. But that's just basically limiting ourselves for reaching for more, just based on conditioning or other people's fears, or even our own fears, right? But the reality is we are the captain of our own ship. And when we're leaders of our own lives, we actually get to choose whatever we want, whatever the fuck we want.
And that's the thing as well. The biggest thing I learned by working with you, the thing that really, I suppose, activated me, that tip of the iceberg, was the way that I listen to my intuition instead of my head. Like, we're both splenic authority, and listening to the spleen. And I remember messaging Angharad and going, what do you mean? What is a spleen? Where is a spleen? How am I supposed to listen to it? And it's actually an individual thing on listening to your own intuition, your authority in human design. And for me, I've just started really getting it. It's like, don't go do that, Victoria. And I'm like, what did you just say? No, but that makes sense to do it, Victoria. Listen to me. So listening to our authorities when it comes to decision making, because the head is the conditioned thing. The head is the thing that says, yep, go do this. But then our intuition tells us something else. And you can bet your dollar that if you listen to your intuition, listen to your, authority, whatever that is for your own energy type, or for your own human design, basically your blueprint, then magic happens. Like, legit. And this is what you've done. This is what I've literally seen you. So this time last year, you were like, you had your balloons 333, yay! Oh my god, I can't believe I hit this. Like, it was 333, like 333, whatever. It was like over $300,000, right? And it was like celebrating in your kitchen. I remember the photos of this was happening just after I had done a program with you, my week program, and you were saying, my goal for this year was 2222 or whatever. You hit that, and while working with you, like within that week, you jumped and jumped and jumped and jumped, and you really kind of doubled or multiplied what your actual zero evidence goal was, which I thought was amazing. And you just kept collapsing. You kept doing the same thing, right? I've got what it works. I got my authority. I know how to listen to this. These are my targets. These are the things I'm wanting. This is what I want to do for me, like for you in particular, not how everybody else is doing it, like you said. And then you collapse and you collapse and you collapse and you leapt and you leapt and you leapt. That's the way I see it. Is that, correct me if I'm wrong?
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to have that reflected back to me. Yeah, for sure. It definitely, it's like Abraham Hicks, the better it gets, right? The more we trust ourselves, the quicker things move, because the way I always describe it is like the human has to be trained, basically, our human. There's a soul, like like how I used to live my life, right, was my human led the show, and occasionally I'd listen to my little spleen being like, drive a different route home, and occasionally I do that, and a couple of times I did that, and there was these massive car crashes that I just avoided, which is insane. Wow. But it would just be occasions that my intuition would allow it to leave, whereas now, like, my intuition is running the motherfucking show and my human is like along for the ride. So but basically, my human has so much evidence now from when I listen to my intuition, and obviously through, like, a big catalyst for me was when I learned about mindset, like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, however long ago that was. I learned about mindset. It was in 2018. I learned about mindset. I didn't even know what personal development was, didn't know what coaching was or anything, like, until 2018.
Neither did I. So evidence, everybody.
Yeah, it can happen very quickly. But when I learned about mindset and around our subconscious programming and our fears and everything, that it's really just trying to keep us, protected, I was like, right. So this is the reason, why I've been stuck and couldn't launch the food blog for 10 years and all the things, right? So then I started a podcast to share about this stuff, because it was like changed my whole entire life, learning about personal development and mindset. So now, like, basically how I describe it is our human gets to recalculate the probability of this batshit crazy thing actually happening, that our intuition is like, here you go, this is what you're going to aim for. And your human's like, what in the shit? But eventually, through so many times of following that intuition and it actually working out, your human is like, okay, I just surrender now. Like, you clearly know what you're doing. Like, I'm scared. We can nurse you along. And this is one of the reasons why I love coaches too, because our coaches really help our human, right? Really support our human in this like soul evolution.
Totally. And I love how you said, like, there is fear. It's going to be scary. It's like, that's what I learned about being splenic. It's like, I am so goddamn excited about my next level, because I've done a lot of quantum leaping as well. And it's like, I'm so excited. I'm so scared. And when you say talking to the human, like training the human and getting the evidence for the human, it's that kind of that subconscious brain, isn't it, as well? Like, it's safe. It's safe to receive. It's safe to leap. It's safe to not fit into mediocre.
Yeah, exactly.
Because who wants to be mediocre? But we've been trained and conditioned that it is actually mediocre. And I mean, there's a reason why it's called mediocre. Like, like, it's not safe to just be average. It's like, you're here with a purpose. You've got your soul, you've got your spirit, you've got your human, and it's like, how do you want to play?
Yeah. It's like, if you want to be the 1%, you have to act like the 1%. You have to make those moves like the 1%. It's as simple as that. It really is. So the mediocre is not the lane you're going to stay in anymore, because you want to be the 1%.
Yes, yeah, and you are the 1%. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I love it so much. And what I really love as well, and this is for all those coaches out there or people who are like, stepping into this, is not holding stuff, right? So one thing I found about Angharad, and we've caught up quite a few times, and it's like, you never hold back anything. It's not like, I've got a secret. And I've said to you, what are your secret? Tell me. And you're like, I don't have a secret. This is what I do. And I'm like, thanks so much for sharing that. And I'm like, wow, you're so authentic. And I think being authentic and being in your integrity is a part of this actual journey, because a lot of people don't believe when I say, you went from this amount to this amount. Obviously don't know figures, but I know that you have definitely done a lot of quantum leaping. So have I. Like, I was just hitting my 10K months when I first started working with you. And now I'm having 50 plus months, all within. Thank you. Like, all within a really short amount of time. And I'm going, holy shit, I've just done what Angharad's done. Like, not quite on that scale yet, but holy shit, this stuff is real. And the belief had to come before the evidence. And that's what you actually told me. So thank you so much. It was like, the quantum leap, you have to let this human know that this is possible, because there's no evidence around you, or not a lot of evidence around you, to show that you can actually make multiple six figures by working less hours.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why, like, our human design is so important, right? Like, so for you being a projector, you are extremely efficient. For me being a manifestor, I go through periods where I work a lot, and then I work fuck all, right? And then, for the many gens and generators, they're going to be more consistent, right? Because that's just how the energy works. It's about maximizing, our soul's energetic DNA for this human experience. So this is one of the reasons why I love human design. But in regards to like the quantum leaping and not holding back, like, absolutely, like, the best mentors I've ever worked with, they don't hold back. They give it to you straight. They give you all of their wisdom, while also giving you their intuitive stuff. And, like, we're in the business, like, I'm in the business of obviously, showing my kids what's possible for them through their life, and recoding our conditioning and our DNA and everything. So I'm passing on different things to my lineage, to my kids, to my great grandkids, and forever. But also, this is the work I do with other women too. So we literally, like, saying like we all rise together, like, it's quite literal. Like, it really is quite literal. And so, like, you're quantum leaping now, and it's just the beginning. Like, it's honestly just the beginning. The thing I found was definitely 0 to 10K months was like the hardest.
Yeah.
By far. It was the hardest, because we're rewiring a lot and renavigating a lot. that we've never done before, for our human. And then, from 50 to 100 was very easy. And 100 to 150 plus, is even easier again. So this is revenue a month. But so, it's different layers bring up like very similar things. It's just you're more refined at doing the inner work.
Yeah, and you've got the evidence, isn't it? It's kind of like driving in a car. To learn how to drive for me, you're on a farm, so you might not resonate with this, but learning to drive for me was really hard. It was so hard. I failed my learners, all the things. And then what I did was then you'd just drive around the block and it was like, oh, okay, I did it. And then it got easier and easier. And now you're driving the whole country and you don't even have to think, you're automatically doing it. I don't know where that analogy came from, but that's kind of like, I'm thinking, how did I just do those consistent 50K months? Because that was legit so easy. Way easier.
We continue to extract the lessons, right? Like always, like one of the big things that people ask me that I've said quite a few times on coaching calls today has been that I think a lot of people undervalue hindsight, like looking back in hindsight, extracting lessons, good lessons and bad lessons. And one of the reasons why we don't like to do it and why we often have a lot of resistance around it is because we're going to have to feel emotions that don't feel great. We're going to feel shame. We're going to feel guilt. We're going to feel remorse. We're going to feel disappointed. We're going to be upset or angry or bitter, you know what I mean? Like around our decisions or something we did or didn't do or how a situation went down. But hindsight is like a really, really valuable lesson that, powerful leaders are continually navigating because we know that we can always grow no matter where we're at. Like I can continue to refine my messaging. I can continue to refine my branding, refine the way I sell, refine the way I show up, refine how I communicate, refine how I support my clients continually. So that requires hindsight continually, which means we need to have emotional intelligence, right, to be able to do that work.
Yes. Oh, I love how you explain that. Yeah, perfect. Because I know from a lot of my clients that I go, okay, let's go and do the shadow work, hypothetically, or let's look into whatever that areas of what's not working. And then they put these walls up and they go, oh, no, I'm fine. I've already done that work. I'm like, well, actually, there's different layers. And I know when I first started working with one of my first coaches and she'd say, go cry and let it out. I was like, what? Just tell me what to do. And eventually when I went and started doing the journaling and I started crying, because I'm actually don't have a non-defined solar plexus. So, I'm just kind of like, whatever, I'm not overly emotional. And then when I started tapping into it and started releasing, another layer happened, another layer. And I was having more freedom and the guilt and the shame and all of these things that I was willing and am willing to look at, how it's like it transmuted and it shifted.
Yeah, exactly. Because we get to extract the lessons, right? Like the emotions are showing us things, right? When we're really upset that we didn't make that decision and we didn't have a boundary, or we shouldn't have gone to the barbecue, or we should have left 3 hours ago, whatever it is. That there's a lesson in that. And our intuition was probably screaming at us, for us splenic authorities, like, you shouldn't have gone in the first place. You just wanted to chill on the couch,
Yes.
Or for us manifestors, like, I didn't want to go and be social right now. I wanted to go and do the sales page or go on my Instagram stories or go and do an Instagram live or go be creative, So it's, our soul has such clear ways of communicating with us when we're able to put it through a framework, but also when we're able to give it the time and space to listen it and integrate it. It's an integration thing. It's not just a knowledge. It's a journey.
Yes, integration in a way that works for you. So journaling didn't work for me because I had to stop. But then stopping and now journaling and tapping out, especially breath work and things like that, and having coaching. That there has been really transformational because I made a deal with the universe that every time I invest, I get 10 times back. So when I did your program, I was like, I have to have 10 times back. That's what I'm actually available for. So when you said I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars, with basically faith, right? You said you did this in faith, and a deep knowing that when the God, the universe, creator, whatever, says to you, okay, Angharad, okay, you invested this, and I'm going to have my deal, and my deal here is here's the actions for you to take. Yeah, it came down into your body. This is how I kind of see it for me anyway. And then you went and did the thing, and then you were very successful. Just to shorten it.
Yeah, to like take out all the absolutely on a fundamental level. If you're, yeah, absolutely, it's not what it felt like in the experience, but like looking back in hindsight and doing the facts, absolutely, that's totally exactly what happened. It's just my human, there was a lot of human resistance and a lot of human lessons, I guess, through that I extracted throughout those years, and that's what I, have essentially built a business on, is those lessons. I've extracted those lessons and help other women through that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then helping to navigate people that are going through it. Absolutely. So I know for me, I'll get like a hit, and then I'll be like, really? Is that what you want me to do? And then and it's not like giving it up to God, not that kind of energy of I do what I'm told. It's not like that, because I own myself. Like I'm like, yes, I'm definitely like, I love it how you always say queen energy and look after your queen and all that type of stuff, because it is very much not known in this reality to be like that. So it's very much about, I'm going to go have a bath after this. How can I bring pleasure in? It's that beautiful energy of the masculine and the feminine. At the same time, it's going, okay, quantum leaping. I'm not alone here. These intuitive hits that come down, and then taking action on what you desire to take action on, and cleaning up as you go type of thing. I always say cleaning up, because it's kind of like cleaning up the energies that come up.
Yeah, that's a good description. Another word that I use is call it like plugging energy leaks, things that don't feel aligned to us anymore, whether it's a job or whether it's doing your own housework, whether it's yes. Honestly, no matter what it is, doing your own graphics, there's a lot of things. I have a lot of people that help me on my team doing things because they don't feel aligned for me, and I started investing into plugging those energy leaks, so to speak. Before I was even literally earned $1 in my business, I hired someone to do my podcast, so and do graphic for me and heaps of things, because there's just I just knew that firstly I set the standard right with the universe and with God around how I want to do this business, and it's not working my ass off. And the reality is, when you're starting a business, there's a lot of things to do. There are a lot of things. So some mini gens and generators absolutely love doing the websites and all the things. But for me, after I did it the first time, I was like, I'm never doing that again. And began to hire the support that I desired in order for me to utilize my creative energy, and to our farm manager used to say, pay someone $20 an hour to the $100 an hour jobs, so you're free to do the $1,000 an hour jobs. And so for me now, I'm paying someone $100 an hour, and even back then, paying someone before I was even earning money, in my business, paying someone $100 an hour to do the $10,000 an hour jobs, so I can go and do the $1 million an hour jobs, the $100,000 an hour jobs. So yeah, energy is so important, getting the support that we need and actually desire.
Yeah. So what would you say to people? I've got a question, because I get that, and that's what I'm implementing in my life, and I think it's gold, literally. But what about those people that come to you or myself or go, yeah, okay, I've got kids at home, I work, my husband's at work, I'm trying to start my business. Like, you've been there, Angharad, so have I. And you're like, and they're like, oh, and a little bit of stuck in that victim mode of like, I don't have enough time, I don't have the money to invest, and they stay still because there's a lot of stagnant coaches, or they have that side hustle. So what would be what would you say to them to kind of jump out of that, I suppose?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, definitely have been there, and it's one of the reasons why it took me a decade, right, to start a food blog that was going to cost me nothing except web hosting, which is $10 a month or $20 a month or whatever it would have been. It took me 10 years to do it because, it's a confidence thing. But 9 times out of 10, when people say, I don't have the time, or I don't have the money, obviously I'm a privileged white woman, so I'm not saying by any means that I had it hard. financially and stuff. So I know that there's a lot, everyone has been raised differently. And, if you have Indigenous, you're from Indigenous culture, you have a completely different, story than I ever would, of course. And, but the thing is that the thing I notice around people who make it, right, from working with thousands of women across the globe, the women who make it with the money quotes, are people, there's one thing that they have, and it's the entrepreneurial spirit. It's a spirit, right? And so the definition of entrepreneur, there's two parts. The first part is they create something from nothing, right? So the people with entrepreneurial spirit, no matter what sort of, it's like how it feels to me is like there's this cosmic river of creation coming out of like my heart center that has to go somewhere. And so it's like this river, and when it's meant to head north and suddenly there's a block there, the river of water doesn't just be like, oh, sweet, okay, let's just retract and go back into a shell. It's like, no, we find it, so then it turns left and it finds a little stream that then expands and it finds another way, right, forges another path, right? The water will never, like water coming off a mountain, it will never just stop and be like, oh, okay, I guess we'll go back. It doesn't work like that, right? So this entrepreneurial spirit of figuring it out, there is always another way. There will always be another way. No matter what happens, it's like the spirit that will not die. No matter what, and it takes a while for it to build up. For me, it took, over a decade for it to build up to be strong enough for me to get to that point where I'm like, no matter fucking what. And some people it just happens immediately, right? And some people it takes a decade, some people it takes a lifetime, some people may never happen because some people don't have it. But the second part of being an entrepreneur is actually putting your ass on the line. So, it's taking financial risks or something like that, and taking financial risks without it making sense is kind of the second definition of an entrepreneur. So, the reality is of starting businesses, I think a lot of us have had this, fascination or romanticized that an online business, that makes $10,000 a month wouldn't have any expenses. Well, it's like, well, yeah, there are. There's an online business requires graphics. It requires potentially a website. It requires potentially a podcast that all costs money and gear or hosting, or someone to edit it, or, and then there's the photo shoots. So you either have to have clothes or do your own hair and makeup, or you can hire a photographer, you can hire videographers. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of costs involved with business. And a lot of us, our generation are getting into the online space and thinking that, just because social media is free, then everything else is free. It's actually not. Yes. So, through us building a brick and mortar businesses first, our first business, we borrowed $100,000 to buy a tractor and gear. We had to pay staff. When we started farming, we had to buy even more gear and pay staff for 3 or 4 months before we even had income, right? Like, brick and mortar businesses like a restaurant, okay, if they have to lease a building, right, then they gut it and repaint it with their branding. You think of Subway, right? They have to put all their pictures up, their branding. They have to buy the furniture. They have to buy all the food. They have to get, the chefs to try all the menus, and then they have the wait staff to figure out, the order of things, and they test out things. So then they invest in marketing and advertising for like there's in the papers or online, and then they have, but the thing is, I have goosebumps right now, that restaurant isn't sitting there saying, oh, I'm not a restaurant yet. Whereas a lot of online, because they haven't had a customer yet, right? Because they haven't had the first person walk through and order mac and cheese on their menu, they think that they're not sitting there being like, oh, I'm not a legit business. But they've invested tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into the startup of that business. With our online businesses, often, especially in the coaching world, before we've made one sale or before we sign up one client, we're like, oh, I'm not even really a legit coach. I'm not even really like, I don't know yet. I'm just sort of like dilly-diddling around, and I'm not even really sure. And then you sign the one client. It's like, oh, I guess I'm a coach, but, I kind of need like 3 clients because I'm not really sure if I'm really good at that. And, I guess I really need 50 people in my group coaching program, not like 10, because I'm not really big enough yet to probably like claim that. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this real problem of people firstly not investing into their online businesses and thinking, that they can, and you absolutely can do it, but to collapse time, like, and my journey has been like, I invested like it was a legit brick and mortar business because I built 2, 3, 4 brick and mortar businesses before I even started my online business. And I knew what it takes, right? So there's that. And then the second thing is like really owning that this is just because you don't have the first customer yet, just because someone hasn't bought the mac and cheese or the burger or your freaking, I don't know, snails, whatever it is that you're selling, right? Just because someone hasn't bought
snails,
right? Someone hasn't bought your escargot yet, right? It doesn't mean you're not a restaurant. It doesn't mean that you're not a business just because you haven't got a certain result yet. It's like a spirit that will not die. So that is what I would say.
Yes, and I am, goosebumps, fire, passion. Right now, you're on fire. I love being with manifestors. Love it so much because, people quit. They fucking quit before they even start because they go, I don't want to ask my husband for that money, or I'm not worthy of investing in myself. Like, I have invested over 100K in coaches in this last year, and none of that made sense. And one of the things I learned from you is like, you're like, it doesn't make sense. Go with the thing that doesn't make sense. It feels good. I don't know if they probably weren't your words, but that was the gist that I got. And I was like, oh, so I went with that. And rather than trying to get everything for free or going, oh, you know what? Like, there's a lot of information out there. One of the things that I've really realized in this last couple of years is it's very unkind for me to do free coaching or sales calls that turn into coaching. You know what I mean? Like the sales call that goes from 15 minutes to an hour and you just gave them all this information and they go, I don't need your program now. Thank you very much. I've got enough. That is the most unkindest thing I've ever done to someone. And I actually still felt a bit of guilt about it recently because I was like, if that person came and worked with me like I knew that they required to, they would have integrated and I could have helped support them. But instead, I gave them all the knowledge and they don't know how to do that integration. So that is why we invested massively in coaches, because it's the energetics and the practical and the structure and all the things. So
yeah, absolutely.
Isn't that interesting how that is mindset? Huge amount of mindset. Like, how much money are you investing in your business before you're starting? And I know you talk about websites and I know you talk about you were talking about that stuff as well, but none of that's actually necessary. They're kind of extras, aren't they? I'm sure you didn't have all that stuff when you were hitting your first kind of six figures. But when we're doing, there's two ways of it. There's the ways where people invest everything into the stuff that they're still hiding behind. Or there's a whole investing, like kind of that full hog in the ways that suit for you and having that deep ambition that this has to work because I know it is, because it's my soul's journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think for everyone, there's going to be different strategies, right? So for me, when I started out, I had a website because I already had a food blog. So when I started coaching, I just had, web pages and stuff on there. So I did have a website, but I know many, like one of the coaches I work with makes, I don't know, multiple 8 figures a year, US dollars cash, and she doesn't have a website. So, you don't need a website. But yeah, this is where there's a lot of strategies around. And I absolutely do believe that, to get a business to probably 6 figures, but certainly 6 figures a month, there is a shitload of strategy that goes on behind the scenes, like within my business. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, there is, you have to have a very diverse product suite, like I shared about this on, I did a masterclass a couple of months ago, 6 Figure Secrets on Instagram. There's last month, actually, far out. That was only last month.
It was only last month.
It's crazy. It feels like so long ago. But, for me to have a six figure months, there's a lot of different dimensions that people are paying me for, right? So there's people paying in advance, people paying right now, and there's people paying, on payment plans from the past for something they've already received. And then I have multiple different offers, like, I don't know, 50-ish offers that people can pay me for. So that's a lot of, a lot of different ways that people pay me. So there has to be like a lot of strategy within your product suite and with your marketing, within your selling, to be able to get to that level of, business, because the reality is no one makes $1 million. No one has $1 million business with, without strategy, right? Without structure. Like it's just not possible. But the way that we get to my specialty is, helping, I did this for myself first, obviously, myself and my clients get to their aligned strategy, right? It's not like and this is where our authority is literally God. Like it's literally it. It's going to give us the strategy for us that's going to be best for us, that we're not going to burn out. Because, some people wouldn't like to run as many live group coaching programs as I do, or they wouldn't like to take on, like, I don't take on many private clients, but some people take on a lot of private clients, whereas I need to take on like 4 at a time. So, because I personally don't want to have more than that. So yeah, everyone's going to have their own balance. So there's definitely 100%, it's 100% strategy and 100% energetics is the best way I describe it.
Yeah, and yeah, some people more, that's where the balance comes in, of course. So I've had people that are more strategy based, and I'm like, okay, let's work on the energetics, and they're like, I'm fine, and they don't create the money. And the other way as well is I'm like so woo woo and feminine, and I don't want to have to work for it. And it's like, well, the entrepreneur thing is about, taking massive action as well as knowing when to lean back. I really truly believe that, and that's what I've done. Is I loved how you said the first 10K months is hardest, because I 100% agree with that. So I'm just talking a little bit about payment plans and also people paying in full. So I know you've got a lot of offers. You're a manifestor. You have a huge freaking capacity to hold things, which I absolutely adore. I certainly have only got like about 4 or 5 offers, and that's totally what works for me. So the energetics behind someone paying in full. Oh my God, today my words are so jumbled. Someone paying in full and somebody paying on a payment plan. Now, do you feel like if people pay in full, now, of course, your clients probably come to you because they're obviously attracted to you, to your beautiful, stunning, magnetic energy. But do you find that they take more action?
No, actually, no. God, no. Nah. I don't think there's any difference, honestly, between, and that's actually one of the reasons in the very beginning of my business when I first started coaching, I originally offered payment plans, but only if people were paying like in advance. So for instance, like a pre-sale, and it would have the payment plan would have to be finished before the program started. So, and this is from my like career as an office manager. So I studied accounting and used to be an office manager, and like I used to debt collect. It was the worst job ever. I fucking hated it. Like it was not the go. So, I cock blocked receiving people there because I was so afraid they wouldn't pay me. And so when I cleaned up that vibration, now, like, no, it's just multiple different ways that people can get into an offer, right? So there's certain things like my high-end clients, like I don't offer extended payment plans for one-on-one coaching. They can pay monthly or pay in full, and pay in full does have a discount just because that's the vibe to me. That feels good to me. Yeah. And depending on the offer, roughly around 10%. But it doesn't, no, I don't feel like people have different results when they pay in full versus, go on a payment plan. It just, to me as a business, like it makes sense. It makes sense that I can be paid. I could literally not show up for work for the rest of the year and still get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars because people are on payment plans. Do you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't, like it makes sense for a business to have multiple, it's essentially a stream of revenue, right? So yeah, so no, I don't feel like they have any different experience at all, like in any way, no.
I wonder if that's because of what you're available for and what you're not available for. Because there's a lot of people that have broke mentality as well. So I'm kind of guessing that you probably don't work with people that have that broke mentality.
No, I don't. And I think in the beginning I used to, but I wasn't charging enough. Like like you're attracting the wrong client if you're attracting someone. It depends on the sort of work that you're doing. If you want to work with those people and help them with mindset, absolutely go for it. But that's, I shifted out of that. I did start that in the beginning, but now like that's what my free content's for. Those people with a broke mentality, like free content is the tits for them. They can invest their time and their energy into free content. Like I have 3 years nearly of life-changing shit on my social media and my podcast, right? People could spend 6 months as a full-time job consuming that content to change the whole entire, and it will change the whole entire life. So the people with that sort of mentality, like I was there, like, and so that's one of the reasons why I create free content, is to help those people, but they're not the people I'm magnetizing into my paid offers.
Yes. Huge difference. I know for me personally, I did a payment plan for people for a year, and the price was about $3,000. And it was to work with me for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look back at that, because obviously going through the learning phases like we were talking about before and like seeing what worked and what didn't, I was like, oh, the investment should have been double. So I've doubled it now.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 months for $3,000 where they were receiving weekly coaching. They had like they got a couple of sessions with me. They had weekly emails and weekly trainings as well. All of that for $3,000. When I look back, and this was not that long ago, so within the last year, I went, holy shit. I overgave so much. It's nearly like they couldn't consume it. And their results literally reflected that as well, where I gave everything. So I think if I had put a little bit more kind of strategy or structure into that and said, okay, let's just give you 10% of what I'm going to give you. And, and double the price. I actually kind of feel like even if it was on a payment plan or not, that price would have been more aligned if it was like 6K rather than 3. So I suppose it's kind of showing that it depends on what the circumstances are. But basically, and all in all, if you are not charging what you're worth, and I know that program that I sold was worth a lot. It was amazing, backing myself there, that of course people aren't going to get the results if you're not owning it.
Yeah, and like pricing as a whole, it's a whole world, like a whole last world. And one of the things that, I tell my clients whenever they bring up pricing is, if you could put a dollar value behind 1 hour of your time, there would be an infinite amount of zeros behind it. They would never end. So we could never, it's not about our worth in pricing. It's actually around what we can get our human behind. Because sales is an art of personal power. It's not marketing. It's not graphics. Those things also help, but it's not any of those things. It's not how many times you show up on your Instagram stories. It's not the lives you do or the pretty graphics or the podcast episodes or how many times you've talked about it or how many times you didn't talk about it or how many times you dropped it into a conversation. It's none of that. It's personal power.
Yeah, 100%. Because I remember what you've done recently. You were showing up every day on Facebook doing a live, and then we had a coffee and you went, just decided not to. I'm done. And you were just very like, oh yeah, I just stopped and I'm good with that. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I think you actually had a stage where you went kind of offline. That's right. Your Facebook crashed. You went offline and then you're going, guess what, guys? I just had my biggest month. And it was like, obviously I've been watching you going, wow, this is legit happening. As a projector, I'm very fascinated in other people and in the energetics and stuff as well. So it's kind of crazy. It's not about how many times you're posting a day. It's not about how you're posting. Of course, I teach things like this is a value post and statement post and all that type of stuff for total beginners. But when you're playing in the 10K plus, it's really about being so authentic in your integrity and having that divine balance, I suppose, and not listening to your head all the time.
Absolutely. And our head will tell us we need 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 Instagram followers, or we need this many people on an email marketing list or whatever. But the reality, like you just said, so I did a live challenge for nearly a year in 2019 and 2020 and 20. Yes, it was last. So, and 2019. 2020. You're right. Yeah. And I got to day 200 and I got marked as spam on my old Facebook account last October or November, and lost that account. And I had 5,000. It was my biggest network. So I just utilized my Instagram. I think I had 200 Instagram followers, something. And now I have just under 3,000 Instagram followers, not even 3,000 yet. And that's my place where I sell. That's where I get 99% of my sales from, is Instagram. So clearly you don't need 10,000 Instagram followers. That's it. It's just Instagram for me. I have an email list with just my clients on it. Basically, I don't really send them emails. I've just got my Facebook account back now, but I've posted probably 3 times in the last month. I did have a podcast role, but I've taken a break from it this year. But the reality is that you're a cosmic being having a human experience, and there is no limits to what you can and can't experience in this lifetime. So you have to continually upgrade the codes of our human, through our DNA, through our conditioning, through our, actual physical human, like through actually upgrading that to allow more and more of our soul to come through and to be expressed. And so this is the reason why I built a, nearly $1 million brand with 3,000 Instagram followers. Like, it doesn't make sense, but that's because I decided a long time ago that it wouldn't make sense.
And I love that, because guys, people that are listening that you think, oh my God, that person's got 10,000 people, they're fake. There's some legit fake profiles. So they're not fake profiles. I just have to like clean that up. What I just said, rewind. So it's not that they are fake profiles, but people buy followers. Like, it's a thing. I know coaches that do it. And I didn't think that was a thing, a little bit naive there, but just because they say they've got 15,000 or 10,000 or whatever it is, doesn't mean they do. So there's that. Some of them do, but it doesn't mean that they're selling. I know people that have got 3 times the amount of me, and I really have only got like a few hundred, to be honest. And people, they're not making any money. And
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that, I've leapt from, since working with you, I've gone from my first 10K months to 50K months. I've had a 60K month. And I know that, like you said, it's just the very beginning. And the proof is in the pudding. It's not about how many followers you have. It's not about how many times that you posted, like you literally went offline and had your biggest sales month. And it's not about the Facebook ads, which I've asked you about. And yeah, that stuff is all great and it can support you, of course. But it's about what feels good for you. What is your authority saying? What is the impact you want to have on the world? It's just, who do you want to work with? I was attracted to you, Angharad, because before I even knew I was a projector, I messaged you and I said, hey, oh my God, I feel like this thing with you. And I don't ever do that because I love being alone. I love being alone. I'm very, very kind of private. And you were like, oh yeah, oh my God. And we were so similar with our kids. I mean, there's about 5 or 6 things we had legit in common. Like, I think we're the oldest of 5, like different things like that. And the craziest thing was, you were like, oh yeah. I'm like, where do you live? Thinking you lived in Australia. And you're like, I live in New Plymouth. And I was like, I live in New Plymouth. Like, what? It was so weird.
From one another. Yeah.
So crazy. So amazing. So, and you have different things and different ways of coaching people. So like you said, you've got it's nearly like different pillars. That's a wrong word. Like, for instance, people can have your free stuff, or they can, you've got your money mentality. I can't remember what it's called. What is your money one that I did?
Money manifestation mastery. Yeah.
Yes. Money manifestation mastery. And then you've got all these other ways. So really, if anyone wants to work with you and they're attracted to you because you are a manifestor, so it's going to be like a yay. There's always something.
Yeah, product suites are really important for businesses. So yeah, always have a lot of offers going on because, manifestors like to create. So it's really beautiful. Yeah, I love to hang out on Instagram, mostly my Instagram stories. So yeah, my handle is at Angharad Sage. It's where I, put my offers up and stuff. So if you want to come and follow me, I would love to get to know you too.
Awesome. And you've got a book? What is your book called again?
Yeah, I do. I need to probably update the branding and stuff. It's called Desperate to Determined. So I wrote that at the end of 2019. And I wrote that because, I wanted to share about my journey from, desperate, bottom of the hole, suicidal, depression, lifelong depression, to action. And then, that was around 25 years old to sort of like 20. So like in the space of 3 years, I shifted everything in my life to actually being determined to chase my version of happiness. Like we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, right? Like actually being the captain of our own ship and really making choices for ourselves. So I wrote that book and it's on Amazon. It's hit #1 Amazon bestselling new release author. It's an incredible little book. It's amazing. I need to probably write some more at some point.
What have we just created? Watch out for the next book. Okay, cool. So lastly, what I'd like to say to you is that I'm just feeling called to ask you, like, what would you like? What is the message that you like to give to the mums out there, the entrepreneurial mamas, that they've got that burn? They've got the burn. I know we've covered it as well, but I know a lot of people go, oh, that coach doesn't have kids, so they wouldn't understand. So what is the message that you would like to give the world?
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it for you, but you're also doing it for them. Like in the beginning, I think I found the motivation to do it for them because I wanted to show them what's truly possible, that you don't have to sit in a box, that you get to prioritize yourself, that you get to love yourself, that you get to show them like what being a leader really is, because our kids really just are little walking, talking versions of us. Right? I saw a quote the other day and it's, your kids' inner world is your outer world. And I it blew my brain, and I'm like, wow, like that's it, right? Like our outer world is their inner world, so we're doing it for them, and then eventually we make the switch and we're like, fuck it for them, we're actually doing it for us now. Yes, of course we're allowing them to see what's truly possible for them, but actually ultimately it's actually for us. We're actually doing it for the little girl inside us that dreamed and desired of like living a certain way, of having certain things, of being a certain person, of having so much zest and so much passion, so much fulfillment and wealth, and whatever it is that you desired, you do it for her.
And let your children be a contribution to you. Like you've done with yours, homeschooling, and like, what? So cool. Thank you so much for giving us this incredible time. I super appreciate it. Everyone can check out the show notes, of course, how to find you. Like you said, it's at Angharad Sage for all of your platforms. On Instagram is the place to be. There's a lot of free content. And if you're anything like me, you will just be soaking up the vibes of Angharad because you are a next level queen. So thank you so much. I'm so excited to see what you bring out next. And I also want to say thank you for helping me unlock some of those gifts that I wasn't aware of, and being able to be a bigger impact in the world, because I truly believe that, you have really helped me activate in many different ways. And I've got other coaches and different things like that as well, but there was a certain part that you helped me with. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I truly know that those who are listening to this will be activating as we speak.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for listening. And I send you heaps of love and aspiration and ambition and lots of power to go on your journey.
Stunning. Thank you so much, Angharad. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining the Release Your Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. So please leave a review and tell me what your favorite takeaway from today was. There is so much more from where this came from. You can also find me at Holistic Energy Shifting on Facebook, where you can find more content, more coaching, and more guidance. Have a grand and glorious day, and I'll see you next time.